2, 1. And oh wait, shit. Local recordings. I'm doing local recordings. uh, okay.
And now we are.
Live. Hold on. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Real Lovers Podcast. We're somewhat consistent right now, and we just went live last week with Megan's World. We had a really great conversation talking about why we love movies and stuff like that. And we're still kind of striking a little bit in solidarity with the writers and the actors, Screen Actors Guild, just because we love movies and they make the stuff that we uh, just watch every single day. Uh, we uh, we want them to be paid a decent like a decent wage for making the content that we uh, embrace every single day. And joining me on this journey on just our love of movies is Tyrone from the Circle Club. Tyrone, welcome to the Real Lovers Podcast.
Thank you for having me. Oh my gosh, I feel like we've been trying to plan this for weeks and weeks and weeks.
It honestly feels like months at this point.
I know.
But
Yeah.
capitalism bit us
Oh
really
my
hard.
gosh, it's bit me in the neck like Edward Cullen right now. I'm just, oh
Right.
boy, so tired, but so excited to be here and doing this with you. And yeah, like you said, like, I mean, like all these actors and writers are looking for is a livable wage. Like
Mhm.
that's what we all want, and it's crazy the amount of money that like these studios have lost when it's like you could have just paid them that money.
Exactly. But I think that the thing that about the strikes going on right now that is a little bit uplifting because lately, like the studios and the writers and the actors haven't been talking at all,
Yeah.
and we're just kind of like sitting here as content creators, just like, well, when is this gonna end? Is the movie business just gonna like fold
Pause. Yeah.
and this podcast is just going to be a lovers podcast or something like that, or an anime podcast? It's like it started to get real grim, but like I
Yeah.
believe this last week they met. I think they met on Friday,
Mm-hmm.
and they apparently the studios gave them a counter offer, and the unions are going over that counter offer, and then I hopefully we'll find out like very soon if the strike will end and stuff like that. But yeah, I feel like that's good news, but I sort of have some bad news,
Oh boy,
Tyrone.
what's that?
It's not really bad news, but it's like when I got home before we went live on the stream, I saw this SAG-AFTRA apparently is oh crap, that's the wrong tab. SAG-AFTRA will no longer approve indie projects written under a WGA contract.
I
So
know. Oof.
so I'm not sure if anyone knows, but A24, an independent studio, signed on to basically cover projects that from struck companies because they agreed to the terms that WGA and the actors wanted. Now SAG-AFTRA is coming out and saying we don't want this
Yeah.
because it's a conflict of interest where it's like
Mm.
it muddles their message, I guess.
Yeah.
But what do you
Yeah.
think about this?
I mean, like, I get it. I mean, I'm a little disappointed, and I don't want to sound like I'm, breaking the strike or crossing the picket line or anything. Like, I totally understand and respect that decision,
Mm.
and I think if they think that's the right decision, then it's the right decision. But I was definitely looking forward to maybe like this renaissance of independent films maybe rising up and like giving like more attention because you know, I thought it would be a nice moment to like allow those independent studios, like a moment to like, all right, where's that next A24? Where's
Mm.
that Plan B or whoever else? And but like it's like I said, like I think, if they think that this is the right move, then I'm totally for it. I think, but I wish that maybe they would have allowed it for maybe like a week or two, to really put some pressure on the
Yeah,
studios, because I feel that to I mean, it was like 24, 48 hours, it felt like, um, to have this change. It just feels like the studios are kind of like, oh yeah, you need us. And
yeah.
so I think it sort of, it hurts, but I also get it. Well, how do you feel about it?
Um, I feel indifferent about it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a huge supporter of like independent film, and I feel
Yeah.
like we we're both filmmakers too. So it's
Mm-hmm.
like it I feel like there's kind of like a line that they're drawing in the sand, because like from this article, uh like they approved 207 like projects like, already, and
Yeah.
I feel like they kind of like just said like, okay, that's enough and stuff like that,
Yeah. I guess that's fair. Yeah.
which that this is where I'm indifferent. It's like,
Yeah.
when does a movie become independent, and when does it go to like blockbuster or like a bigger type of movie and stuff like that?
Mm.
It's kind of blurs that line a little bit, which make I don't know.
Yeah, no, I get what you mean. It's like it's like, okay, is there like a set number, or is there like, is it the size of the crew?
Yeah,
Like, is it just the traditional sort of major studios that you're talking about there? So yeah, I agree. I think it does blur the lines a little bit, and I find, even just, as a moviegoer, sometimes kind of being like, is this, and even A24, like, A24 is definitely still an independent, but like, it's like at this point they've become so large that it's almost like they're medium sized, if that makes sense.
they've crossed over pretty much, but
Yeah.
congratulations to A24. They crossed over without kind of like
Yeah.
piggybacking on like a Disney
Yeah.
or
Thank
like a
gosh.
or
Oof.
like a Warner Brothers and stuff like that.
A24 Disney. That's my hell.
Y- yeah, that's my personal hell too. But yeah, I don't know. I think SAG is kind of doing a little bit the right thing, because they haven't really been on strike for like this long, in like 60 years and stuff
Yeah.
like that. So it's like all this is new. All this is new to them. So it's
Yeah.
like even like 60 years ago, we didn't have like like platforms like we do now and
You're
stuff like
right.
that.
Yeah.
Like
Different world.
streaming, and yeah, it's a different world. So I feel like all like when they announce like all this stuff, it's all kind of like we're learning on the fly. But yeah,
Yeah, I mean, and one thing too, like, obviously, this is gonna sound funny, I think, when it comes out of my mouth, like, but like, I think about in the pandemic in 2020, when we had like the Black Lives Matter movement, and there was such a,
hmm
energy around it. I think in more of like I'll say less serious, even though that's not the correct word, because it is still very serious. This is people's livelihood we're talking about.
hmm
So like adjacent, I guess you could say, that it's interesting to see how there was a point where it felt like a lot of these big name celebrities weren't really involved, and then I think a couple people kind of spoke up, right or wrong. Like you said, I feel indifferent. Like Jamie Lee Curtis, and then the guy from Arrow, Steven
oh shoot, what's his
Harwell or
name?
something like that. um,
Yeah,
they both spoke up, and I think it kind of created this sense of urgency from a lot of the like A-listers of like, okay, like this is one of these moments in history where I want to be on the right side of history. And then we started to
yeah,
see this influx of donations and people on the picket line, and you see Bob Odenkirk there, and so I think that's really important, because to see those larger names kind of, I don't want to say legitimize it, because it was legit, but like to some of these people who are a bit more ignorant about what's going on, it legitimizes it, because I think a lot of these people are thinking that the people on the picket line and out there, what they're arguing for, it's like, oh, they're all millionaires, and it's like, no, these aren't just millionaires who we're fighting for here. It's like
hmm
it's the people who make the films, the background actors, like the people who are working 8-hour shifts for $8 an hour, or 12-hour shifts, and not seeing anything from that. And we're in this weird time where, you have a company like Netflix will have, 4 or 5 of the biggest projects in the year, and then and not even Netflix. Like, let's just go back to the traditional studios. Like, for Abbott Elementary, Mr. Johnson sent a residual check, and it was like a penny or two. And I'm just like, how does that even happen? Like, could you imagine Creed from The Office in the 2000s just not being able to live off of that performance? It doesn't make sense. And we've gone so far from, like you said, 60 years ago, that it's like the fact that the studios are acting as if, like, these demands are so insane, and like, why can't you guys just take the old deal? It's absurd to me. It's just completely absurd.
It's absurd to me as well. Like, even like the whole Abbott Elementary thing that you just mentioned about him getting like a penny like residual check, which doesn't make sense because Abbott is also on network television.
Yeah.
It's also streamed on Hulu. But the thing that I started, I forget which podcast I was listening to, but I honestly think that the studios aren't really lying, like when they say like, what they're asking for is unreasonable,
Mm-hmm.
because I really think that streaming is not bringing in the money like
Yeah.
like what they want us to assume.
Yeah.
Because every single
Exactly.
day my Hulu subscription is going up. Netflix is going up every single
Yeah.
day. HBO Max or Max is going up every
Yeah.
single day, and I think like when you see like those top tens on the streaming services, and they
Mm-hmm.
say like this show streamed so many times, it's number one on Max, the
Yeah.
one to watch for HBO. It's
Mm-hmm.
it. I think that's all like a marketing ploy, just
Totally.
because if they were to say like I'm trying to think of like a show off the top of my head, like
Like
if they
Squid
were
Game
to
or Stranger Things, like one of those shows. Like, you just, like, to not to cut you off, but like, it's like you said, like, us not getting those hard numbers, the directors and like the people involved not getting these hard numbers, it just creates this complete fabrication of reality, like,
yeah
and like, and to your point, like, they want us to believe, like, I don't know if you remember, Disney had this influx of new users, right? And I think it was like the first or second quarter of either last year or this year, and everyone's like, "Whoa, Disney Plus is gonna, be the next big thing," and people are really, signing up for Loki. In reality, like, those subscription numbers came from India because they have a deal in India for their sports in their cricket league, and it's like, yeah, well,
yeah
if you it's like this, it's like if the NBA made a deal with Hulu, and like they're like, hey, if you want to watch the NBA, then you have to get Hulu. It's like, that doesn't mean I love Hulu. It means I like the NBA, and I think that's sort of the fluff going on behind the scenes.
Yeah, and because if they were to actually tell everyone like what their real numbers were, their stock prices would tank.
Right,
Like,
right.
and I feel like that there is some fact to that, to be
Definitely,
honest. And
definitely.
I feel like when the writers come and say like, "Hey, we want 2% of what you're making," and
Yeah.
the studios are just like, "Well, what are we making?" and stuff like
Yeah.
that.
You want
Which,
2% of 200? Yeah, it's like,
yeah, exactly. Which it I say that now, even though like Bob Iger has like what's his net worth? It's like
oh yeah,
27 billion or something like that. It's
disgusting.
like,
Yeah,
yeah, it like, I'm not saying it's like completely true, but I do
yeah,
think streaming is just completely like unsustainable.
yeah. And I mean, my thing too is, I get that no one thinks that the CEO is as important as they probably really are. And that's just because, like, we value the creatives, the people actually on the ground. And that makes sense, right? And it's like, you're a decision maker at the top being a CEO, and you're handling parks, you're handling television, you're handling film, you're handling, brand growth and awareness. Like, we live in America, so we think, oh, everyone loves Disney, right? Well, there's a market potentially in Thailand, or a market in potentially in South Korea, or whatever that they're like focusing on. So I do think that the CEO has an important role, and but I just think, like, I just kind of go back to what are you paying your lowest worker compared to you, and if that number is more than 50 times,
Hmm.
what are we talking about? That's just absurd. No one needs that amount of money. Like, what?
Well, I forget that. Sorry to cut you off, but I forget like the stat. But I think it's like over like 50 years ago, 30% the average employee at a company made 30% less than
Yeah.
like the CEO of the company. Now
Mm-hmm.
it's like over 300%, which
Yeah.
is absurd. But
Right.
yeah, what were we gonna say?
No, yeah, but exactly, and that's you took the words right out of my mouth. Is like that's where we are now, and obviously, no one's saying that the extra should make $1 million every year, but it's like if I was an extra on a hit show, that audition process, I'm not sure if you've ever auditioned for stuff. It's insane. Like you first off, they have to like kind of like you, or you have to have the look that they have in their head, right? And then
Mhm.
from there, you submit it. They look through hundreds of people. Maybe you get called in for like, oh yeah, oh let's do a sizing. You look kind of right. And then, oh, you come. Actually, you're only 5'6", so we're actually looking for people who are 6 feet. So sorry, you're no good. Guy who's 6 feet comes in, gets the job, is there for working 12-hour shifts in the background of Abbott Elementary as one of the parents, and he makes $86 for the day, $115 for the day. Now, should they get residuals for being in Abbott Elementary? I think yes, but let's just say that's up for debate. Still, for that day's work, someone has worked 12-hour shift and you're making $120. It just tells me that you don't respect their contribution to the larger project. You know what I mean? And I think
Yeah.
there is enough money for someone to make $1,000 on, like, one extra to make $1,000. And then, if that means that, oh, you can't have the best craft service, you have to have like something a little bit less, or it means that Bob Iger has to take a 20% pay cut to make that happen. It's like this is like the easiest PR move in history, in my opinion. Like, if Bob Iger comes out and says, I'm going to take a pay cut, and I know that it's not going to help overall, like, to get you that, $1,000 you want, but now we're talking about people who went from making $8 an hour to $16 an hour. I think people would that would have positive reception. I mean,
Yeah, first. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, it's like it's still not enough, but like 100% increase, people are gonna go, okay, Bob, you kind of understand what's going on here. But the fact that these people are still making $8 an hour in California, which has one of the highest wages too, it's just and like highest cost of living, it doesn't even make sense. Every $8 you're taking home what, like $4 after taxes?
It's more like $4 an hour at that point,
Yeah.
especially here in California. And I just think that across the board that there's just like people are angry with like wages and stuff like that. Like not just here in California. Like
Yeah.
you have like you see like all these unions, all these people that are a part of unions, which that like I mentioned on the last stream I did with Megan, like the UPS was striking.
Yep.
And they won. Like the
Yeah.
Teamsters had a huge win.
Yeah.
Getting like because like everyone just realized like if UPS isn't around, we're kind of screwed.
Yeah,
So we're like, we'll
right.
just give them we'll give them what
they're asking
what they
for.
want.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is just me just saying like studios, give the writers and actors what they're asking for.
Yeah.
So
I hate Bob Iger. I can say that publicly. I don't care. Like, I would tell him to his face. I think that he's not a good person. And like, if he were to come out tomorrow and say, you know what, I'm taking a pay cut, and if you work at Disney, as an extra, we're doubling your wages. I go, wow. You know what? I have to give it to him. Not enough, but I have to give it to him. I respect it. You know what I mean? But
yeah.
He's never going to do that. And I will never forgive him for just the tone deaf interview that he had, where he's like in these like Silicon Valley sort of background and the mountains and beautiful.
He was at the billionaire retreat.
Yeah. And then he's like, all these people can starve. It's just like how could you be such a monster,
How could you be so disconnected?
Yeah.
So disconnected that you can't even see where people are coming from.
The leader of a product that is supposed to connect people everywhere, and you're just so disconnected. It's mind-blowing. It really is.
Right. It's mind-blowing. But pay your people what they're worth so the strike can end, so we can continue the Letterbox Top 250. Tyrone, it's been a while since we've been trying to get you on the
Yeah.
Real Livers podcast for a while. I had totally forgot what movie that you picked from the Letterbox Top
Oh,
250.
jeez, man, you're right. Gosh, I think it was a Studio Ghibli
I think it
movie.
was Studio Ghibli,
I think it was Studio
but
Ghibli. I want
yeah,
to say
which I don't.
Princess Monaco or Kai. No, I
I
think it
think
was the
it's
Princess. Sorry, I think it was like the Princess Kaya Go movie or something.
yeah. I forget what it
Let
was
me look it
called,
up.
but yeah,
Uh,
we'll
the tale of
continue that.
the tale of
Go
Princess
ahead.
Kaguya. Kaguya. It's on
Yeah,
HBO Max or Max, whatever.
Max, the one to watch for HBO.
Yeah.
I feel like that's the only way to like actually say like that the streaming service.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, uh, come back when the strike is over, and we can watch that one because
Absolutely.
yeah, but yeah. But since we're not talking about the Letterbox Top 250, I brought you on to just kind of like talk about like our love of movies, like
Sure.
why I've got like a few questions like lined up for you.
Yeah.
Uh, just kind of like this is the reason we do what we do. We're on YouTube.
Yeah.
We're content creators. We love movies.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, so what was that one movie that you absolutely fell in love with and made you it like a light bulb went off and be like, hey, I could be a filmmaker.
Yeah.
I love movies. I love this medium.
Yeah.
What was that one movie?
Yeah. I mean, funny enough, right behind me here, is so I have here. This is you can't see right now because it's covered up, but
Yeah.
that's the Moonlight poster from Barry Jenkins. And I got him to
Mhm.
sign it, which is awesome. And that's like my prized possession because that movie when it came out to me, and I guess I could do this in phases. When I was a child, it was Toy Story and Who Framed Roger Rabbit. Those
Mhm.
two to me really just resonated. I was always a big Bugs Bunny, and I was like, my mind just kind of was like, it went to another place that it could be possible to have, this live action with these cartoons. And
Mhm.
then I'm a really big Willy Wonka fan. So Charlie and Chocolate Factory, and like again, that's you sort of see how like it's similar in silly, it's very silly but also very serious, dramatic. And then I think as I got older, I was studying French for a while, so Three Colors Blue. It was such a I don't know if you've ever seen that, but
That's
it
in my watch list.
oh
I've been meaning to watch it.
it's
So
so good, so depressing. I was very emo type kid, very like, like gothic kind of emotional type of kid, and it was just such a powerful story to me about this woman going through tragedy and like, but the way that they shoot this film is so different than a lot of American films because there's just such an attention to detail. Like every shot and frame really matters, and like the color choice, and like the sparkles and how like the music, and it just did something to me. And I remember being in French class watching this, and I was like, I went home immediately and watched it again because I was like, whoa! It's one of those movies where it's like you can see things happening before once you watch it multiple times, and like you mentioned earlier about indies, like it's just like it's very small budget, and it made me realize that you don't need to have that sort of extravagant sort of Willy Wonka
Mhm.
and Who Framed Roger Rabbit world to tell a really beautiful story. So
Yeah,
so
that's
so
that's great.
yeah, yeah. I know that's a lot. I know I threw you a lot at you there.
No, no,
And
no.
yeah, and like in the same vein, and it's funny that the theme is really blue, but and with Moonlight, like I was just so fascinated that they took this story that was, you know, against. There's so many themes of just being against the odds, right? It's like this black man who is gay, living in the hood, and then on top of it, you have this classical music to back it. There's not like rap music and all that, and then when you think about how like the time that they shot it in, I think that Janelle, not Janelle, maybe it was Janelle Monáe, or one of the actresses in it, like shot it in like 10 days. Like the three actors never met each other, but it feels like it's the same character. It's just like an ultimate like small budget like wow kind of thing. And I think that to me was like sort of the last thing that I saw that made me go, wow, I just love this medium. I love movies. And then recently, Everything Everywhere All at Once. Like that's the most recent one that kind of made me go, wow, and Barbie. Those two have just been like, yeah.
Yeah, I just love everything that you just said there. That this is why I love movies too. That like you could mention a movie and you can list several things, even though you've seen the movie like 10 years ago, and be like,
Yeah.
well, I just rewatched it, and this is I get so many things, so many more things from it. It's just like. And like what you said, everything ever all at once. I love that. Like when those credits rolled, when I watched it like the first time, I watched it 8 times after that.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Yeah.
but the first time I watched it, I turned to the person next to me that I saw the movie with, and I just said, "Movies."
Yeah.
That's what it was.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's like no, like that Marley, that like completely encapsulates everything that I was just talking about with all these different films, and like and what I find too is like I do this thing where I'm like I fall in love with something, and in a moment, like because we're like in the internet era, everything's always like, wow, that was the best thing I've ever seen. But there's just some movies that you just feel so connected deeply with, and like like I'm not a gay man, but like Moonlight just it really touched me in a way that I was like, wow, like this is so like bold and daring, and like I just love people who aren't afraid to just tell stories of those who aren't being like seen, and like and I think that's what I love about movies the most is it just allows us to escape reality or
Mhm.
create the world that we want to see. And I do this thing where I go back to a movie, like I'll leave it for like a year or so just to kind of feel, okay, do I still have that same feeling? And like the movies that I consider my favorite all time, they do that for me, as you said, where I go back and I'm like, wow, I didn't even notice that, or wow, I forgot about this feeling, or oh my god, I'm still crying. I know what's gonna happen. Like every time I watch the movie Lion, I cry, and I'm like, but I know that it's like the ending is gonna be the ending. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
it's just a beautiful thing. What about you?
Um. Last week I meant it was a different question. It
Mm-hmm.
was like, what was your favorite theater experience? And
Mm-hmm.
Toy Story was it was the first theater experience I've ever had,
Mm.
and it was just a completely like I was in awe. I was sitting
Yeah.
in there in that chair and just kind of like just like it just in awe of everything like around me, like the sound, like the picture quality, because like I didn't have a lot of money like growing up,
Yeah.
still don't have a lot of money like now,
Mm-hmm.
so going to the movies was kind of like a rare experience. I
Yeah.
kind of did like the
Totally.
double feature, hop in between,
Yup. Yup. Yup.
uh, dodge the ushers on my way, because
Right. Yeah. Yep.
that that was back in the day when the ushers actually cared,
Oh yeah.
like if you
Right.
were sneaking in and stuff like
The
that.
golden
So
era.
I believe me, I knew how to sneak around in Sam Fisher, like through the movie theaters and stuff like that.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, and I mean, like,
but
and I'm the same way. Like, we didn't have a ton of money, so whenever we did, like, my dad would kind of be like, "All right, let's just check one more. Like, let's see if we can get in there." And so, like, it just, and even that, like, the thrill of just sneaking in or just spending like 4 hours in a movie. Like now, you're forced to sit 3 hours because every movie's so long. But back then, it
yeah,
was just like an hour and a half of your time or two. You're like, yeah, we can catch another one and
right,
yeah, it was just special. It was special.
yeah, absolutely special. But uh, the special movie that I saved for your stream,
Yeah,
the movie that got me into like filmmaking and just being a content creator, and just like just really opened my eyes to like what movies could do. I say this all the time, but
Fast and the
it's
Furious.
Back to the Future. That's
No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
no, that
Fast
just
and the Furious
traumatized me.
showed
That just traumatized me.
Fast and the Furious showed us what cinema could be.
What if
Oh
I
my
did
god.
say that?
Oh my
To be
god.
honest.
Honestly, those first two movies are just. I remember as a kid, I was really not like a car type of guy, but those first two movies, like we would go on road trips, and like you remember you used to have like the little DVD you could pop in,
Yeah,
and like we just take Fast and the Furious 2 on the road with us. It's just like it really was family. It really was.
yeah. See, that's the origins of Fast and Furious. It's all about family. even
Oh
even
god.
from the second one.
Oh my
But
god.
but
Yeah.
truly and honestly, Back to the Future. I remember sitting on the couch with my brother as we
Hmm.
pop in VHS.
Yeah.
It was the first time I ever saw Back to the Future was on VHS.
Wow.
We rented it from a local video store, and I was sitting on the couch with my brother and seeing that DeLorean back out of like the of like that trailer,
Hmm.
and I was just like in awe of everything, and just I I love the trilogy. I think that first one is a downright masterpiece.
Hmm.
I think 2 and 3 they're okay. Like I
You
know
still
everyone
enjoy them.
likes I know everyone likes 2 because that's when they actually go to the future,
Right. Right. Yeah.
and everyone's like making the comparisons now. It's like
Yeah.
2015, where are my flying cars and
Right.
stuff
Right.
like that.
Right.
But
Right.
I if that Back to the Future 1 pops up on like cable or anything
Yeah.
like that, I always sit down and watch it. It's a I love like the storytelling there,
Yeah.
and just like just the vibes. It's just so great.
Definitely. Yeah. That's one of those movies. Like I don't know if you ever have this where that's one of those movies for me that I'm like, man, I really wish I saw it like when I was like a kid and growing up because I saw
Hmm.
it as an adult and like not that it wasn't still great, but there's a different sort of magic when you're watching something when you're younger for the first
Yeah.
time and I saw it older and I was like, oh yeah, this is really good and I like it, but I didn't really have that same sort of out of body experience I hear so many people have and my girlfriend has never seen Back to the Future, which I think is crazy. And so I know. And so I like usually I'm like, all right, we have to go see this now. But I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna save this for like if we have kids one day or something, and then it becomes like a big family thing because like to like what you said, I feel like it's one of these things that is just so simple, and you still see to this day so many like movies, TV shows copying the formula that they created for that film, and like in like you said, there's just such I just have such an appreciation. The two lead actors are both phenomenal people in real life too, and just yeah, it's I that's a great pick. That's a great pick.
Yeah. One more thing to talk about Back to the Future.
Mm-hmm.
Can we stop bugging Eric Stoltz? Like Eric Stoltz was supposed to be playing Marty McFly,
Yeah.
but he like they like denied him and stuff like that just
Yeah,
because
I saw that
they were
background. Yeah.
yeah, it's like the background with Eric Stoltz. Eric Stoltz is still a fine actor. It's
Yeah.
like it's just because he didn't get Back to the Future doesn't mean like
Yeah.
his whole career was ruined.
Yeah. Right.
But
Yeah.
so I feel like people need to get off his back because
Yeah. Yeah.
if
It's a weird thing to like kind of be like to hold that against him almost or like mention it all. It's like imagine like people were just kind of like, "Hey, Will Smith, you turned down the Matrix every time like his face was in the media." It's like let it go. He was a kid. Like he's done other things since then.
yeah, and it's funny because the same type of thing, except in reverse, is kind of happening with Greta Gerwig right now because everyone's
Mm.
bringing up that she auditioned for How I Met Your Father,
Mhm.
like back in the day,
Yeah.
before she like wrote and directed Little Women, and
Yeah.
everyone's saying like, well, if she got that role, then we wouldn't have Little Women or Barbie, and I'm just like, who cares? It's like maybe
Yeah.
she wanted to go for that role and stuff
Yeah,
like that.
yeah, exactly. And like it's just like it's such a I don't know, it's just such an uninteresting conversation to have anyway. It's just like what if like okay, what if anything? I don't know. Like it's just yeah. That
Marvel did an entire series on What If. Just
yeah.
kidding.
Yeah.
It's-
Yeah. Yeah, what if the studios paid their like writers, I mean, I don't know, It's
maybe
like
they should. Maybe
yeah,
they should just do that.
not
So
maybe.
instead of What If,
Yeah.
yeah. But yeah, I always go to Back to the Future
Yeah,
for that answer because it's really the thing that inspired everything.
I
To
love
be
that.
honest,
That's great.
but yeah, the next question I have is if you could be in any movie as any character,
Mhm.
like what movie would that be and which character? I think
So
I know which one. It,
really? I'm curious what you
yeah,
think. I'm curious what you think before I say
is One Piece? One
it.
Piece?
Oh my god! I mean, if Sensei Oda gave me a role in One Piece, I think I'd just be like, die and go to heaven. But I was actually no. I mean, I mentioned it earlier. Like I always just Willy Wonka was just a character that I always really wanted to play. Like when I used to do musicals and things when I was a kid. Like the big one I got to do was be Aladdin, and like I
Ooh.
really wanted to do Willy Wonka. Like the year before me got to do it, I was like like I really just wanted to do Willy Wonka, and like Black Willy Wonka would be even cooler. And one thing people don't know about that story too is that originally Charlie was supposed to be black, and this isn't one of those like, oh, black people say we were gonna be this thing. No. Like that's what Raw Doll said, but it just didn't get like this. Like the publishers were like, this is not gonna sell. We're not doing this. And if you think about the story, it does make sense.
Hmm.
It really does. Like Charlie's character makes sense. One thing I haven't loved, I just Gene is my Willy Wonka, always will be. But one thing I haven't really loved going forward, now we got this Johnny Depp version and this Timothy Chalamet. It's like, why is the focus on Willy Wonka so much? I mean, it's called Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. Like, why are we not focusing on this poor kid and like his background and his family? And yeah, that's always sort of like been an odd thing to me. That like I don't know, Willy Wonka's a fascinating character, but it's Charlie's story, So
Right. So you're telling me you're not excited for the prequel Willy Wonka starring Timothy Chalamet?
oh yeah, and like his like black like servant girl friend, what is that? Like what's going on there? I just like, and that's kind of like one of those things too, where it's just like I get what you're trying to do, Hollywood, but also like this is sort of a legacy piece. So then like it just doesn't like it just 1 + 1 isn't equal 2, and I'm not very this was one of my most anticipated movies, but the direction that they've chosen to go feels little CW Christmassy, perhaps. I'm not sure. Yeah. So
Yeah, I think it looks fun
yeah,
in a way. It's just
young.
I it's very young. It's very. I think I mentioned this in the comments on your video, your
Yeah,
reaction to it.
yeah.
The twinkification of Willy Wonka, like,
Oh
uh,
my
the
god.
no offense to anyone, but I'm just
Yeah,
saying, it's just like I see a lot of like what Timothy Chalamet is trying to do,
yeah.
like with the character. He's trying to mimic like Gene Wilder, which
Sure.
is, I guess, if you're doing it to kind of like honor and respect Gene Wilder, because that's like the best Willy Wonka. But
Yeah.
how much, like, exactly going back to what you just said, like how much do we actually need to know about this character? It's like
It's
Tim Burton already said like his father was a dentist.
yeah.
I feel like that's as much as I want to know. So
Sure, exactly. Yeah, it kind of like the sort of like when you have these mythical sort of characters like Oz, for example, like which we'll get into in a second, but it's like you don't really need to know too much about these characters because that's what makes the mystery and like it kind of fun. And like I like that Tim Burton did that where it's just like, yeah, his dad was a dentist, like, oh, that makes sense. That's why he does blah blah blah. But then like when you start to get into like, oh, this is my origin story and my mother and all these other things, and and the Oompa Loompa, I hate that guy. What's his name? Hugh Grant. Like I
Hugh
just,
Grant.
oh god, he's horrible. He's like, I don't know his stance on the strike, and I can guarantee you that he is for the studios. He's just an awful human being. But that's a different discussion for a different day. But yeah, I just like you said, like it feels like a poor man's imitation of what Gene Wilder did, and I'm just like Timothy Chalamet is such a talented actor that it would have been nice to sort of see his own interpretation of that.
Yeah,
But this really looks like something that's hindered by the script.
for sure, for sure. I totally agree with you. Which is why the studios need to pay the writers more
Oh my
so they can write.
gosh.
Yeah, yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
it's gonna get rough. Like the next few years, like the projects we're gonna get, not gonna be pretty. Yeah,
yeah. But yeah, so you would be Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. So
yep. I would be in that, and
yeah,
I think I'd want to play Willy Wonka. Um, but like if I was younger, I would want to play Charlie for sure. Just like that sort of
Yeah.
naive sort of character. But yeah, it's that would be my choice if I couldn't be in One Piece as a voice actor.
Yeah.
Yeah. At one point, I wanted to be in Marvel, but now I'm not sure.
Yeah, Marvel needs to turn over a new leaf.
Yeah.
To say
The
it in the
writers.
nicest way possible.
I
Yeah.
think they definitely need the writers to get paid. That's what I would say.
And the visual effects people to get paid as well.
Yeah.
which
Good for them
which
starting their union. Yeah, potentially.
yeah, I think they vote for it. Did they already vote for it for a union or?
It'll definitely go through. I mean,
Yeah.
they're one of the like hardest working and underpaid people in the country. Not just in like this not in this industry, and it's insane because like to your question earlier, what's something that's moved you? Spider-Verse was one of those for me that like I was like, wow, I haven't seen something in like everything everywhere at once, and then like this came like so quickly after. I'm like, my brain can't even process like what I just saw there. It was a masterpiece from an animation standpoint, and to think that how like overworked those visual effect and like artists were, like it's probably just disgusting, Like
Yeah.
the working conditions could not have been pretty there. So I'm glad that they are gonna unionize potentially there.
Yeah, and going back to Spider-Verse, it kind of has me worried about Beyond the Spider-Verse too, because I just heard today that it's got an indefinite release date, which what does the audience do at this point? Because we Across the Spider-Verse ended like with a huge cliffhanger.
Sure.
Huge cliffhanger. Does Sony, like, when the strike is over and they actually have a release date, do they just play both of them back to back? Release them release Across the Spider-Verse again?
Yeah.
And then go right into Beyond the Spider-Verse? It just like it I don't know how I would feel watching a sequel to Across the Spider-Verse like 10 years later.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
What do you think about that?
I think that they little cynical here. I think that the project is definitely still going on behind the scenes, and I think that they probably are using overseas workers. I actually heard some stuff about how they were using some Canadian visual effects artists because there's different rules with their union. And I think that it's going to be the American sort of workers who are suffering, which is tale as old as time in America. We don't care for our own people, our own workers, and then
we ship it overseas.
Correct. Yeah. So,
I really hope that's not happening, but I think you're probably right on that one.
It's sad.
To be honest,
it's sad. Now, what movie would you want to be in? And which character?
Is it obvious?
Oh my god!
No, as a joke, I've always wanted to be like an extra in Fast and Furious, like the old ones, not like the new ones where it's basically like an anime movie at that point.
Yeah, really.
Like the Fast and the Furious.
Yeah.
Like at the start of the races, I've always wanted to be an extra of like cheering on like the street racers and stuff like that. Because to be honest, yeah, that.
Oh my god, you in like those like Daisy Duke shorts, just like hilarious. Oh
no, like because it just seems like fun.
Yeah.
To be honest,
yeah,
it just seems like fun. Hold on, I'm just not focused.
There you
go. But it just seems like fun to be being on like one of those sets, just kind of like just everyone kind of like vibing and just like having like a good time. But yeah, I feel like that's my answer. I know it's kind of like predictable if you follow me on social media,
it's
but
a great answer.
Yeah, and I guess like I know I said like the earlier movies, but even like the newer movies, I would kind of want to be in because it's just like, I just have to be there on set and be like, what the hell is going on?
Yeah, right. Like how do we like go from script to this? Like I would definitely want to be there for that too. Yeah.
Yeah, I want to be in the writer's room when Vin Diesel just storms in and just says, "We're not doing this." Oh, just like
how
goes
dare
completely
you kill
aggro.
my character and add stakes to this movie. How dare you?
Right.
Oh,
And
God.
Justin Lin's just like, whatever, and he just leaves.
Yeah.
This isn't worth it. This isn't worth my mental health at this point.
Jeez Louise.
But yeah, but other than that, I'm not really much of an actor, so it's
Mm.
like it's kind of hard for me to pick like
in
a
the writer's
starring
room
like
when Vin Diesel
like
just
performance
storms in and
because
just says,
I don't want
"We're
to
not
have to
doing
remember
this
lines or
wrong."
anything
Just
like that.
Yeah,
It's
how
just
dare you.
I just want to be an extra. Just put me in anything,
Yeah.
and I just want to be like I just want to just say that I was there. To be honest,
Yeah,
I'm more behind the scenes.
yeah, it's a very fun thing to do, and I remember like I don't really remember which it was, but like one of my earlier like extra things I did was for some television show. I think it was Designated Survivor, American Survivor, something like that, and we were outside in the freezing cold, and we was like pretending to be in New York. It was in Boston, and it was like the dead of winter, but it was supposed to be like kind of spring, and we're freezing. And I remember just kind of like making friends on the set, and like everyone being super nice, and then like getting that like craft service dinner. It's like meatballs and spaghetti. It was actually like not bad, but like I don't know, like it's just it feels very like community based. It kind of feels like you're putting on a play or something, and I definitely, me personally, feel that like at least in Massachusetts, I'm not sure how California is, we don't have nearly the amount of community, like sort of events and things like that.
Yeah.
Just like a community theater would be awesome to do, and sometimes being an extra can definitely feel like that. So, it's super fun, and like I imagine being on a set with like those really like those personalities, getting to watch it from afar would be really funny, but also like the extras must have a blast. They have to have a blast on that set.
Yeah, for
I
sure.
refuse to believe that people like an extra on the Fast and Furious don't have fun.
Yeah, they have to have fun. If they're not having fun, just bring me on. I'll I'll make everyone have a good time at that point.
Yeah, exactly.
So, I just want to be around Jason Momoa,
Oh
like on
man.
Fast 10, because like he just seems like a blast, like in general. So,
Yeah.
but I actually was like an extra on a movie. Like I think I actually have a credit. I don't think I don't think I submitted it yet. I could actually submit it on IMDb, but
Yeah.
I was in a movie called The Other Kids. I was like a
Mm.
production assistant on it,
Oh, nice.
and like the director was just like, "Hey, do you want to be in this movie? We need someone to be in this movie." And I'm like, "Sure." And they're like, "Yeah." So
That's
it's
awesome.
called The Other Kids. People can check out if they want to,
I'll
but
take a look. Yeah, I'll take a look. Yeah, and that's the thing that happens too. Like, I was doing some double work, and then like, it was sort of like the last day. The director was kind of like, "Hey, man, like, you've been with us for some time. Like, we appreciate you stepping in." Because I only got the role because someone else had got a gig in like Disney or something, so they couldn't do it. So I had to step in and do some double work, and it was super fun. Really grateful. Love the experience. And then at the last day, he goes, "Hey, like, we need some extra like students in the crowd. Like, you want to hop in?" And so like, you can see me like in the frame in the crowd behind like this like CGI version of The Rock and stuff, and like, but it was like it is super cool to be in those sort of situations, and like it's kind of like being a movie lover. You get to see how the meat is made, and you're like, wow. And sometimes like I was actually talking about this today or yesterday. It's fascinating that like a set is built for a fake gym, and like you would just
yeah.
think like, why don't you just go to a gym? But it's like, well, the sound, the lighting, it's just all these things you can really appreciate, and so yeah, it's
So much thought.
totally.
So much thought goes into like scenes and stuff like that. It's kind of amazing. So
You know what it made me think too when I was like, because I did it when I was, I think 20, the one I'm talking about, because I was like, there's so many jobs in this industry.
mhm.
Like you can be the gaffer, or you can be a runner, you can be assistant, you can be coffee, you can just be the one picking up like the extra actors in like driving them from set back and forth.
That's what I did.
Yeah, and it's awesome, and it kind of made me like, because originally I was a pre-med guy, I was in medicine, And then I told my parents, I was like, I'm not doing this. Look, there's like if you really love something and you want to do it, it's out there. There are jobs, and so yeah. I mean, if I can give any message to people watching is, even if you don't think you're an actor, try to do one extra gig. I think it'll make you appreciate what everyone is doing on the set, because that's what I hate too. And that's why I have a tough time like criticizing like films and television. Is like I realize how much work goes into it, you
Mhm.
know. And I do think that people have a dream or an idea, and like, you know, there's so many hands in the pot that it's sometimes it doesn't like work out, but it really is like a miracle almost that like a great movie can happen, you know.
Right. Yeah, totally. I totally agree with you. And even like not even just like a movie, like a podcast.
Yeah,
Like
honestly, yeah,
just think how many times you've tried to like record this like
yeah,
podcast like together. It's like
yeah,
it doesn't like I think people, especially now, like people are like, oh, well, anyone can have a podcast and stuff like that. So many, but so many podcasts are created each day, but I think only like 10%, maybe less than that, make it
yeah.
past episode 2
Sure,
or
exactly,
3.
exactly.
It's like it's there's so much work involved. Like you gotta like write the script, you gotta write the outline. It's like you
Yeah,
gotta
yeah.
uh, like get the right microphone, get like the right setting. It's just like being a creative is tough. It's
It
very hard,
it
but it's
is.
and
People think that you just turn the camera on and that's it. It's like no, like we think about like what we're saying before we prep, you know, like
mhm.
the layout. Like I had a friend who saw what I was doing. I used to stream like 3 or 4 times a week, like 3 hours. TikTok, I was doing like 3 or 5 TikToks a day. I was just like really pushing it, and it helped me grow and get some exposure. But like I had a friend who was like, "Oh yeah, I want to do that," and I was kind of like, "Yeah, go ahead, awesome, you know, like do it, go ahead, go for it." But I knew that like they weren't going to like stick with it because I'm like, it's like what you said. He didn't even the person didn't even do episode 2, and it's because like they think that it's that easy that you just turn on the camera, and also like you have to be entertaining and compelling. Like I'll go a month without posting something on YouTube because I'm just like, if I have nothing to say or it's not entertaining, like I don't need to be speaking, you know? And so many people
Yeah.
feel the opposite. They're like, oh, I need to be like there. I need to be talk. It's like, no, like what people are like are doing in Hollywood or around the world, making television, films, newsreels, you know, ESPN, First Take or whatever. Like that takes a lot of work and art and thought and consideration. And that is again why we say the writers are so important and need to be paid. The actors are so important and need to be paid because without them, you don't get to have this magic. You don't get to have
Mhm.
this escape from, you know, the suffering that is capitalism, right? And so yeah, that's my spiel, I guess.
We don't get tremendous anime shows like One
Yeah,
Piece.
yes. I like the segue.
Which is a awesome segue into I guess an ongoing series here on this podcast.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
and the reason why I had you on here, Tyrone, because I think you're the number one fan of One Piece because you've been
No,
trying to get
no.
me into you've been trying to get me into the show for
Ah,
since we've met, pretty
I
much. I
have,
think.
yeah, yeah. That is, I mean, I have to cut you off there. That's really insulting to the community
Uh,
because I've I've
okay.
I've been I've been watching for a year. It's some change, about 450 days. Who's counting? And there are some people who've been watching this since they were children. You know, and like it's just. But the thing is that no one will understand. It's like you ever see that episode of SpongeBob where Squidward doesn't eat the Krabby Patty because
Yeah.
he's just like, oh, it's just a Krabby Patty. It's one of these things I think where once you start it and you get really into it, you eat the Krabby Patty, you get to. I mean, I've never heard of anyone getting to like, you know, 12 episodes and then being like, I'm done because you're gonna get hooked because it's so fun and free and childish in a sense, comedic and fun, but there are some serious moments in here. You're like, whoa, I did not expect that was gonna happen, you know, and like there's real stakes. Like the main characters aren't gonna always win. people die, like
Mhm.
like people like, and it's just so refreshing to see. And not to like make fun of Marvel, but in every Marvel movie I've ever seen, every Marvel series, I'm like, how is the hero's gonna win? They
Yeah,
always
you
do.
know what's gonna happen. You know what's gonna happen because it's setting up for something like in the future.
Yeah,
From what I've seen from One Piece, like so far,
yeah. Give me your
like
thoughts.
it seems like I've only watched 2 episodes, but it really seems like yes, it's building to something else,
Mm-hmm.
but it's focused in on this one episode. This is
Yes,
the story that we're going to be telling here in this episode.
yes,
I think episode 1, to be honest, is probably one of the better pilots I've ever seen
yeah,
in a really long time.
yeah.
Just because I love that the main
Luffy,
character
yeah, Luffy.
Luffy, is it
Every
Luffy?
Luffy, everyone does it. Don't worry, don't feel bad.
Okay, okay,
I've never met a single person who hasn't started off and called him Luffy. It's like
yeah.
a rite of passage. I swear, like getting that name though. It's Luffy. So you got yeah.
The way we're introduced to him by just popping out of a barrel and
Yeah.
him just kind of like I wouldn't call him like I wouldn't necessarily call him an idiot because
Yeah,
I
right.
feel like that would be insulting.
Yeah.
It's just kind of like he's inexperienced. And I feel like the
Yeah.
writers are doing a really good job of just him kind of like fumbling in to like situations and
Yes. Yeah.
just kind of
Yeah.
and him just like yeah let's do it and stuff like that. He's
Yeah.
so positive and uplifting.
Yes, that's what I find so fascinating is that you call him an idiot, you'll see that 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 comes that you'll see it throughout and you're like, oh my god, what an idiot. But it's not like idiot in the sense of intelligence. It's like he's an idiot in the sense of like a Looney Tunes character or something, where it's just like yeah, whatever. Like it's like, hey, like, do you want to be friends with this person? He's just met them and he's just like, yeah, you're my best friend. Because he's just that sort of wholesome and that nice
Yeah,
and friendly. And I think the reason some people get turned off by people like that in real life too is just so many people are unhappy, right, with themselves,
mhm.
the world, and like there's a lot of reason not to be happy. So for me, starting this like last year, we're sort of like getting out of the pandemic. It was really nice to watch something that was just really positive about friendship, about following your dreams and goals. If you're a dreamer, if someone with goals, if you believe in the power of friendship and like just being kind to others, I think this story you'll connect to it instantly. I really do.
Yeah, and even like something like episode 2 where they meet Zoro.
Zorro.
Is it
Yep.
Zoro?
Yep.
Like I reading the title of episode 2, I thought it was like going to be like a main fight and a
Yeah.
main
Yeah.
battle. And when you fight, like should I even say spoilers because
You
it's
can say
episode
it. No,
2
you
of a
can say it.
of
Yeah.
a
Episode 2
you
of
find out
1700. Yeah. It's like
yeah,
yeah.
you find out that it wasn't him he was fighting. He was kind of like Zoro was like he was kind of like beaten down and stuff like
Yes.
that. He was held prisoner,
Right.
and the way that like they kind of like baited and switched me
Yes.
like
There's a lot
from the
of that.
title,
Mm-hmm.
I absolutely loved it.
Yeah.
I really wanted to watch more. It's just like life
Yeah,
like
of course.
happened, but
Of
it's just
course.
like I could totally like you said like if you're not hooked by episode 12, like what's wrong with you? I'm already hooked at episode 2.
So was
Like this
I.
is
Yeah.
yeah,
And
it's really great.
yeah, and I think like what you mentioned there is fascinating. Like if this is something that they do a lot, it'll say like Luffy takes down so and so, and you're like, wow, like did they give away it in the title? And you never know. You never know if like that title is what it means. If it's a double entendre, if it's like a misdirect or whatever. Sometimes it does happen where you're like, oh wow, they did tell us. But that I would say in the entire series, I think there's 1,071 episodes. The entire series maybe like 5 times that happens. Like, but most of the
Okay.
time you really don't know. They really do like to try to. I mean, Oda, who is the creator of the series, he really, he really. What you'll find about him is he's really into pop culture, and so a
Mhm.
lot of times when you see people dressed a certain way or they look like someone, you're gonna be like, I know this character from somewhere. He's referencing like a real life person. Like he grew up fascinated with American pop culture, music, history, all this kind of stuff. Um, and what you'll find about this show, I'm gonna give you a little hint without giving you anything, is
Okay.
how political it is, how progressive the show is, how like ahead of its time the show was. There's like some characters in ideology, and I think that's why Luffy is such a perfect character, is because he's someone who would judge no one. It
Hmm.
is like it's so powerful. And I just imagine being someone in like a marginalized group, or a minority or something, just watching this growing up. You must have felt really like, wow, like I'm seen, like and like I can relate to these characters. Um, but yeah, I do agree with you. The very first episode, you see the kid Kobe. He wants to be a marine, and I think Luffy's like, "Hey, I want to be a pirate," and like they're on opposite like sort of spectrums. But like,
Kobe is so analytical
yes,
compared to Luffy, and
exactly, yeah.
I love like how the whole opposites attract. And you know me, like I like
Mm-hmm.
seeing a lot of like kind of like connecting like like are these characters queer and stuff like that. Like I had like immediately I was just like are they? And I'm like, no, they can't be. And I'm like, no, they
You
could
wait,
be.
wait,
And I was
wait,
just,
wait till you see eventually down the line, if you
oh
make
my,
it. It is you're gonna be like, I'm in love with Oda. Oda is my hero. Like why do we not celebrate him? Like honestly, there's a point in this story that I go, this is some of the most like progressive sort of storytelling I've ever seen. And like it just blew my mind, and I'm like, again, not to make fun of Marvel, but I'm just like, why would Marvel not do something like this? Like, I don't
mm-hmm,
know. I just go through and I'm like, man, if I was like, someone in the LGBTQ community, plus community, I would like feel like, wow, I feel kind of seen here. Or like,
mm-hmm,
if I was someone from South America, I would feel very seen there as well. And even though the characters, if you listen to it in like the original voice, it's Japanese, they're clearly trying to like show that they're from different parts of the world, which is also
mm-hmm.
pretty cool. Question for you: what did you
Okay.
think of Kobe initially? Like, do you think that he? Yeah, just what did you think of him? Just before I get into follow up.
To be honest,
Mm-hmm.
his character I felt seen the most. Like
Mm.
I saw I felt seen with Luffy as someone that doesn't judge anyone.
Yeah.
But I can be very analytical sometimes and
Mm-hmm.
kind of like second guessing like myself.
Yeah.
And the way like I never wanted to be like in the Navy, but
Mm-hmm.
just him kind of like second guessing like whether he could actually do what he wanted to do, and
Yeah.
then him meeting someone like Luffy that would open his eyes into like being spontaneous and like
Yes.
and it really made me really made me feel seen. I
Yeah.
feel like I really hope that these two characters are in the most episodes, and I'm assuming they are because they are like the main characters. But it's just like it's really great, and I just want to thank you again for like introducing me and
Absolutely.
just and pressuring me into watching this
Yeah.
because I'm having a really great time.
It
It's I'm
yeah.
not skipping the intros, so it's just like
Yeah. I didn't skip the intros for a bit, and then like as you get on, you're like you start to skip some of them because you're like, okay, I gotta get to like whoa, that was such a cliffhanger. Like let's get into it. I would tell you, like, if I give you a recommendation or anyone watching,
mhm,
there are fillers in this, and you don't have to be a purist and watch the fillers. These aren't traditional
mhm,
fillers. Some of these fillers are like almost in like a pocket universe where like the characters' personalities are completely different and like has nothing to do with the story. But it's just something that like Oda, because again, you got to think of when this came out in 1999. It was like weekly, and there was like commercials, and like so they're like
mhm,
actually illustrating this. And so in between like those periods of like 3 4 weeks, sometimes they'd be like, oh, let's just make a quick silly animation just so people have something.
yeah,
So you don't need to watch those. And then I would say the recaps in the beginning. I find the recaps helpful if I like take a break for a couple days and then I come back. But like
mhm,
I don't think the recaps are really necessary either. But yeah, I'm super happy for you to have seen like these first two episodes. And I remember when I watched for the first time, I was like like I don't really get it, but I had the same feeling that you did about episode one, where I was like, man, I told my friend Yao, jumping on another jet on TikTok and other things. He is like, he's been watching it since he's a kid, so 1999. So he was 5, and now he's like 28 or 29,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm like, man, can you imagine watching something for 20 years?
Actually, yes. Fast and the Furious. Not trying to derail. Not trying to derail.
Right. But it's just like, oh my god.
Sorry.
Okay. But it's just like,
But
like,
yes, I know what you mean.
but this is a community that, like, you could be on Tumblr, and they had like, it's just been through all the iterations of the internet. So like, like there was like the forums, like those sketchy forums we had in the 2000s, and then like Tumblr had like their like theories, and then like Twitter, and then there was Facebook groups, and like and like now we're so far 20 years later, the theories that people have, it's so fun to be a part of. And like, I finally caught up after a year and some change, and like now I get to see and be a part of these conversations, and I'm like, the people, like, you think I love One Piece, the people who are involved, I mean, this thing could be the Bible. It's just, they have dissected every single thing, and I want you to get through at least 10 episodes, I think. And I'll fact check that. And I want to invite you to my you can invite you to my channel. We could do the same thing. We do a dual episode here, and just ask you some questions, kind of get your mindset, like what you think is gonna happen in the future, all that. Because like, one thing that I found fascinating is, so what Yao did to me, and it's a gift I would love to give you, is he showed me some characters from the future, and he was like, tell me what you think about this character. Tell me what you think this character does. What do you think their like future is gonna be like? And it was really cool for me to kind of go back and be able to watch that and be like, I didn't know anything about this show. I was so off, and like the twist that I got, it like delivered just, yeah, it's just, chef's kiss. So I wouldn't do the same for you.
That's incredible. I accept your invitation. Do you want to like just do like a like after I watch 25 more episodes?
I think let me look. I think there's like a sweet spot, because there's like something happens where like the arc kind of really starts, or the arc ends. And that it would make more like sense in the story if I started asking questions before you dived in. So let me get back to you on that. But then after that, yeah, sure. I think that would make sense. Like, every 20, because some of these arcs are a lot longer than others. Some of them are like 200, some of them 300, some of them are only like 50. But I want you to do one thing, is just remember, every single line of dialogue is very thoroughly thought of. There is no sort of coincidence. Like, things are like very intentional. The names of people, the name of islands, the name of swords, like, it's all very like something. I promise you, there's gonna be a moment where you're like, I completely forgot about that, and like, it seemed like that was just a little side character, a little moment that is just like part of the larger thing, and you're gonna be like, oh my god. So
what you're saying, it's actually it's good Fast and Furious, right?
Yeah.
It's characters that can actually relate to each other that were introduced like years ago,
yes.
And then in the newest episode they come back and be like, hey, remember me, and stuff like that.
Yeah, it'll be like, I mean, just to give you like a microcosm example, let's say, Luffy and Kobe, like, the first thing they did together is they drank like a cola, right? And Kobe's like, hey, I have beer, like, let's drink beer. And then like Luffy's like, no, I'm gonna drink cola. And you notice throughout the entire series, you're like, over and over, Luffy doesn't drink beer. And you're like, wait, everyone else is drinking, but Luffy doesn't drink. Why does Luffy not drink? And then like all of a sudden you're like, what? There's like insane backstory about why he doesn't drink. Wow, because his mother was an alcoholic. Like, you know what I mean? Like that kind of thing. Like
Yeah,
it's like, and you're
that's
like,
great.
and you're just kind of like, you knew he didn't drink, but you didn't know why, and like it just comes out of nowhere, and you're like, whoa. So it's like that kind of thing.
I'm excited. I'm excited on this journey, and everyone watching should be excited for my journey. Uh, tune in next time to hear more updates on my One Piece journey.
Yes.
We're about an hour in. We're
That's
only
okay.
halfway through this actual show. Well, no, we got two more. We got two more things.
Yeah.
I don't want to spend too much time on this next topic because it's kind of depressing.
Yeah. Yeah.
For anyone that's been following Tyrone and I on social media, we have been doing a summer movie wager where we basically predicted the top 10 movies of the summer, and I don't want to talk about this anymore because
It's pretty pitiful.
I am in dead last. Tyrone, you're in second place. You're actually doing better than me, to be honest.
Yeah.
But Tyrone, do you want to just talk about your experience on this dreadful game?
Oh boy, yeah. Let me actually look at my board here. I don't know what happened. I mean, like, well, I'll tell you what happened.
Barbie.
Barbie happened. Yeah.
The power of pink.
Yeah,
the power of pink.
The power of pink. It's. I mean, like, and I'm happy. Like I said, like, Barbie was a movie that really made me go, wow, you know, and it did move me, and I thought it was really beautiful. I still gotta go back and watch it again. It's.
I just watched it a second time.
Same feelings. Was it really still great?
It's really great, to be honest. And I don't really like Greta Gerwig as much as the next person.
Yeah.
Still kind of like it still has like that white feminist kind of like
that's what I was
like
say.
it's sprinkled in there.
Definitely.
But it's not as bad as like Little Women or Lady Bird.
Sure.
So
yeah,
yeah,
and I like Lady Bird. I really do. But there is. I actually watched a really good content creator, and I gotta get their name. Because it would just be like it'd be a crime not to like share. But yeah, look up The Plastic Feminism of Barbie if you get the chance by Verly Bitchy is their name, and like it's just a really great analysis of like, yes, this is really powerful, important. It is new age, modern sort of feminist, but like there's definitely that sort of, like you said, that white liberal, white woman feminism in there. And that's just, in my opinion, like that just goes back to capitalism. Like Mattel is not gonna let you tell that true story. I mean, Barbie in general is one of these characters that is like, they think, let me make a disabled Barbie, and like that's what people want. But then they don't actually go and like put their money where their mouth is, And so, but yeah, we could get into that all day. But point being is, it was really awesome. I really did like it. I think Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, I thought that was gonna be number one. I think the problem with that was the length. The length on that is long, and it's kind of a hard rewatch to kind of go back to. I think I definitely loved it, and it was fantastic, but it just kind of came at a very awkward time, I think. And I have yes, go ahead.
I think I watched it 3 times, to be honest, because I just think the whole film is like absolutely beautiful. But I think most audiences didn't want to rewatch it just because it did leave on a cliffhanger, like for most people. And I think that when movies do that, it's kind of like, well, I'll just wait for the next one. I don't really need to watch this again.
And I blame Marvel for that, because I think the way Marvel has done these cliffhangers is, it's not right, because you want to tell a full story, and then you give a little bit of a cliffhanger in the post credit, or like at the very final scene or something, right? But it should still, and I think Spider-Verse, it never was intended to be a standalone. It was always going to be part one, and then they made that sort of market decision. You remember it used to say part one for a long time?
Yeah.
And so
so then they changed it.
It was always supposed to be a part one. But I think the thing that really crushed me is Mission Impossible. I put that second.
Yeah, I put it second as well, and I feel like we're both kind of like destroyed at that, just because I, I don't know. I should have looked at the numbers for the
Yeah,
Mission Impossible
yeah,
movies because they haven't really cracked like 100 million.
yeah,
To be honest, like they've kind of they've kind of hovered around there, but nothing really soared past 150 to 200 million,
yeah.
which is surprising because it seems like people love Mission Impossible.
Yeah, I
Am I
think
wrong?
no. Yeah, I think I blame my inner sexism for this one because no, seriously, because I think that I thought Barbie was going to be. I was like, yeah, it's gonna be okay. It's Greta Gerwig. It'll probably be like we said, very white liberal woman kind of thing. I didn't think
Hmm.
that it would be as powerful as it was. And then I also just kind of wasn't sold. Like I didn't watch the trailer, which is
Hmm.
another mistake. So I kind of saw these stills and I was like, this looks like an SNL sort of sketch or something. Like I don't get how it could go on for like hours.
Hmm.
And they just blew our. I think we went into it. A lot of us, not with low expectations, but like we just didn't really have any sort of expectation of what was going to happen. And
Hmm.
then when you do that and something just whoa, like it wows you, I think like that is more special than like going into Across the Spider Verse. You expect that to be awesome, so like
Right.
you're gonna critique it like way more than you would Barbie. Um, and then, but I think
And well, no, go ahead. Go
I was just
ahead.
gonna say, but I think the issue with Mission Impossible was the timing of it. This should have came out like 3 or 4 weeks before it did, and I still don't know why they didn't do that. And I was really banking on because last summer Tom Cruise had such a hit with Top
Hmm.
Gun 2 that I was thinking the sort of same thing would happen. But I think this is really a big marketing fail.
Yeah, for sure. It seems like Tom Cruise would know not to kind of like sandwich himself like right in between Oppenheimer and Barbie,
Yeah,
or not sandwich, but basically release in such a close
yeah,
proximity
proximity.
to,
Yeah,
because he knows that Nolan is going to want those premium screens,
definitely.
and
And he's gonna
he
get
he
them.
basically locked in those premium screens for like the next couple months. I
Right.
think Gran Turismo is going to take him over here pretty soon,
Yeah.
and then after that, he's got him again. So it's like
Right. Yeah.
uh, Nolan gets what he wants, and
Yeah.
Tom Cruise should have known that. So
Yeah. I mean, when like Warner Brothers is throwing like a bonus for him for Tenet, in like, and I love Tenet, I really do, but like, I think that's a movie that people will appreciate. 5, 10 years from now, but it didn't have the reception of a lot of his others because it came out in the
mhm.
pandemic, and they still gave him like a 15 million bonus or something. And so it's
Yeah,
like, yeah, clearly like Nolan is someone who draws audiences, brings people in. I'm still very, I don't know about Oppenheimer, man. I still like hot take here. I know all the dude bros are saying it's like the greatest thing ever, but I don't know. It was missing something from me. It really was.
I need to see it again, but let me tell you, I've listened to that soundtrack, the score,
Mm-hmm.
every day on repeat. Like Ludwig Göransson,
Yeah, yeah.
a
Did Black
round of
Panther?
applause.
Yeah,
Round of applause. He's been doing everything. He did
yeah.
Black Panther. I think
Creed.
he's done the Mandalorian.
Yeah,
He's doing everything at this point.
yeah,
Like he did not have to go that hard for Oppenheimer, and he
yeah,
totally did. So,
yeah, yeah.
but yeah,
It was a banger for sure.
yeah, but yeah, the summer movie wager. It was fun. I wish I could. Wish I would have won, but
We got Blue Beetle. We still got Blue Beetle
yeah,
to save us.
it's just- Tyrone. Tyrone, let's be serious.
Oh man.
I wanted to succeed. I
Yeah,
wanted to succeed really bad, but I think that movie's gonna flop just because it's post gun or whatever, or
yeah,
pre gun.
yeah.
So
And then also the
I don't know.
Flash was just dangerous for me to put it there. That was my gamble. I said if I put Flash there and it does well, then you know what? I may have a story to tell my kids one day. but like,
Yeah,
but I knew. Yeah, it just.
I'm really glad it bombed. To be honest,
Yeah.
that the Flash bombed, just because it's just the people involved, and it's just uh, I do think it's just super funny that the Flash bombs and the Warner Brothers was hyping it up as like the best superhero movie ever, but they canceled Batgirl, and I'm just like,
Yeah.
we could talk about that for hours,
I know.
but
Hey,
but yeah,
I don't know if you're gonna show yours or not, but have you looked at the global?
I don't want to. I don't want
have
to.
have you looked at the global leaders?
Oh yeah.
At the top? So I'm 631. So I was curious what you were.
Shoot. Let me just.
I don't know if it's at the
Let
top.
me just go. I have to click over.
Oh, okay.
I could edit this part out of the podcast, but I am 2,307.
Okay. And what's the number one look like?
Let's take a look at that.
Yeah. I'm just curious.
Shoot.
Oh, does it not show? That's okay. That's okay.
It might not show. Hold on. Let me just.
Because I was
share
like,
theirs. Here we go.
Okay.
Okay, so they have Barbie at number 1.
Wow.
They were risky at that.
My goodness. Yeah.
They nailed pretty much everything at this point.
Yeah, except Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And,
yeah.
Fast X.
Yeah, Fast X.
I mean,
Fast X.
Yeah.
X.
They're a big fan. So that makes sense.
They're huge. They're a huge fan.
Yeah.
But yeah, Tyrone, thanks for playing with me.
Absolutely.
We should do this again next year. But yeah, I know it's getting late, but I do have one more game.
Let's do it.
For us to play.
Yeah, no worries. Push through.
In honor of the writers and they're being on strike.
Oh boy.
Tyrone, are you a fan of tier lists?
Of
You've
what?
done that?
Oh,
tier lists?
Yes.
So I found this tier list. It's a movie cliches.
Okay, I love it.
So we're ranking movie cliches to end this podcast.
I love this.
I
have to clip this.
In honor of the writers out there, we love you. Although some of your cliches and tropes can wear on me a little bit. So if anyone isn't watching on YouTube, there's an S rank, S through D rank. We're just gonna rank our favorite and least favorite tropes in movies.
Love it.
Okay. Can you see it on the screen? Or
yeah, I can kind of see it. So
okay, I'll just read them out.
Yeah.
I'll read them out. So the first one is the humble, down to earth hero. Blake.
I mean, I do like a humble, down to earth character, but I think it really depends because it can get really bad. It can get bad quick.
Yeah.
You know, if they're like, I'm trying to think of like a humble, down to earth character that I like. I don't know. I mean,
kind of.
Who do you think of?
Well, no, Luffy.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, Luffy's a humble, down to earth character.
Well, I mean, I think he says in the very first
well, you know
episode,
more about him.
Well, in the very first episode, I think he says he wants to be the king of the pirates, right?
Yeah, true.
So that's not so humble.
Yeah, not so humble, but
yeah, but I get what you mean.
Yeah.
Honestly, I would say Kobe's a humble, down to earth character.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
And I love him. So
yeah, I love him. So I would say like a B.
Yeah,
I feel like that's like right in the middle of the pack.
Because I feel like when it gets ugly, it's kind of like Tom Holland's like Peter Parker. Like he's supposed to be humble, down to earth, but it's kind of like I've never met anyone who has ever been like this. And
yes,
I think that happens a lot.
Yeah, definitely. So next we have withholding vital information. When the writers withhold vital information that we obviously know what's happening, but they're just holding it for us.
Oh, so if it's obvious, then no, I don't like that. If it's not, I was gonna say that's like my bread and butter. I love that. I love it. When like it's like you're keeping us in the dark here. I love that. But like if it's obvious and they're doing that, ugh.
Right. Yeah. So it doesn't say whether it's obvious or not.
Mm-hmm.
So I like that too. I like being in the dark and kind of like letting the writer tell the story for me.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is going to be an A, our first A.
Yeah, I mean, for me, if we're talking just like being in the dark, personally, I put it all the way to S because I love it that much. But A, it's
Okay.
definitely A. Put it on A for sure.
Okay. I don't want to do S just yet, just
Okay.
because I
We'll,
want to save that for something good.
oh, yeah, something you're like, wow.
Okay. Um.
Broke.
Okay. Broke, but has a really nice house is our next one.
Oh God.
So this is
Dan Humphrey from Gossip Girl.
or friends. How are all four of those friends renting an apartment in New York?
Yeah.
Like they're like they work at restaurants and stuff like that.
Yeah,
How are they affording that rental
that's a
price
C.
in New York
That's
City?
a C or D for me. Like I would like. What are you thinking?
I'm thinking D as
Okay,
well.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
I don't want to be
Make
that
it realistic,
harsh.
people.
Because I mean, it does get fun sometimes. Like I was thinking of a Gossip Girl. I'm like, yeah, it's kind of fun that they're living in these absurd houses, but he's poor. But like,
Right.
and it adds to the drama to it. But it's ridiculous. It's so ridiculous.
Yeah. It's ridiculous. Just put him in a studio apartment.
Yeah. Seriously.
That's all.
Yeah.
That's all. If they're both put in a studio apartment, or just give them roommates. Uh, okay, nudity for the sake of nudity.
Ugh.
This is calling back to Oppenheimer.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm gonna say C.
Spoilers.
Yeah. I'm gonna say C because, like, it's always nice to see. Sometimes you're like, man, that is just a beautiful sort of specimen. Like that's just me personally because I'm a Scorpio and we're all sort of freaky.
Yeah.
But like, as far as story goes, I mean, this is like bottom of the like. This is D. This is like a E. Like when I was seeing like watching Oppenheimer and I saw Florence Pugh, I was just kind of like, again, this is why I was like, I don't get what people are seeing in this movie, but yeah.
And first, like, since we both brought up Oppenheimer and that Florence Pugh scene, I remember like before people were saying, "Oh, Nolan's first 15-minute sex scene," and I'm like, "This lasted 15 minutes. This is more like 2 minutes."
Yeah, there's no.
But I'm like, yeah, there's no way. I agree with you. I think D.
Yeah, I mean, but I do think like. I don't know, like you think of like Euphoria sometimes, or like HBO shows. That's why I said C's because I'm like I think sometimes or like Game of Thrones, like people, it's just showing that people exist. Their bodies are their bodies, and like they don't have to be sexualized. But the use of Oppenheimer is clearly a D. Oh my god! So
okay, so I'll bump it up. I'll say C.
yeah,
I think C is appropriate. Killer's dead. Psych.
oh,
I think this is a D.
D for dead. Yep.
Yeah, because Fast and Furious.
Oh man.
Because this character is dead. Psych.
I don't mind necessarily if a victim is like comes back, but like it has to be really well done. But the killer, no. D.
Yeah, it's definitely D. D for dead. Hero saves villain at the last minute.
If the villain is a villain that is suffering from trauma and capitalism and the system, and the hero's kind of like, hey, I believe in you, fine. But the majority of the time, it's not that. The majority of the time, it's just kind of like, we can't be, if we don't save the villains, then, like, you know, like, who are we? And I'm kind of like, no, you know, if a neo-Nazi, sorry, I know you can't say it on YouTube sometimes, is falling,
it's okay.
Is falling from the sky, I'm not saving them. You know what I mean? So,
right.
So,
well, I feel like what you just described in that first one, that would be an anti-hero.
Yes.
Like here, it's a villain.
True.
So, I agree with you. I'm not saving a villain. An anti-hero, like, I'm possibly saving.
Yeah.
Especially if they learn from like their mistakes.
Sure. Yeah.
And they learn something there. I would say D.
Yeah.
So
I agree.
because okay, this one's topical from what we just talked about. Cliffhangers. Do you like cliffhangers?
I do. I love cliffhangers. But not from everyone. Cliffhangers are not equal, and that's why I would think B.
Yeah, I think this is fair. I think cliffhangers now are kind of lame because
Yeah.
all these movies are coming out and they're treating it like a TV show where
Sure.
they're just like tune in next week and stuff like
Right.
that. It was
Right.
just like,
Right.
yeah, like what? But if it's a cliffhanger like Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows
Yeah.
Part 1
Yeah.
to Part 2, like that is like they weren't done telling this.
Right.
They were done telling that portion of the story,
Right.
and they're
The
going
first
to,
half of the act. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So I would agree. B. Endless ammo.
Hate it.
A character that has endless ammo.
Hate it.
You really?
I just like. Okay, you're right. Okay, maybe a C. Maybe a C.
Okay.
Because here's the thing. It's nice, but like I kind of like to see someone when it's like, if you're the swordsman and you don't have your sword, like who do you become? I kind of like to
Right.
see you so. And I think of Star Wars. I hate Star Wars, like the shooting. That it's just the awful. Like we miss 1,000 times shooting. I hate that. I really do. What about
Right.
you?
I don't mind it. It depends on the movie. Like
Yeah.
if it's like a full on action movie and the movie knows
Sure.
like what it is, like a hardcore
Yeah,
Henry
that's
or something
awesome.
like that. Like that's totally awesome.
Yeah.
Uh, but if it's like trying to be like super realistic, like it's a war movie, and they're like,
Oh
oh,
yeah.
they got like, it's like, oh, they didn't reload something like that.
Yeah.
Like that's an old rifle. They
Yeah.
probably would have reloaded.
Yeah,
And they
like
would have
John
died
Wick,
there.
I love it, and that's why I could put this
Mhm.
at B or C, honestly, for me.
Yeah, I think it's a C. I don't love it, but it's not something I completely hate.
Yeah,
Okay. Parents don't care what their kids do. Like
D.
I don't like non supportive parents,
Yeah,
and it's
D.
just like,
When I think that
yeah, it's
I think that's some like the parent character is not explored nearly enough. It just isn't.
yes, yeah, uh, yeah. That's a weird one. So we're just gonna go D
Yeah,
because it's super weird. That's a weird trope for them to put in this one.
yeah, yeah.
It was all a dream.
Oh, I'm trying to think of an instance where it was I liked it.
Inception.
I don't think.
Spoilers.
Right. I don't. But see, I like to believe at the end of Inception that he is awake, and so that would be a dream.
Oh, you're one of those people. No, I'm just kidding.
I don't think he's still sleeping in the end. I do think he wakes up, so it is all of a dream. So you're right, in that sense.
Yeah.
But I think what they're referring to here is kind of like this episode didn't matter kind of thing,
Right.
which is filler.
Yeah.
Which is what I told you all to skip earlier.
Yeah. So you don't like these. You don't like these at all. I think it can be clever because it offers some backstory
Mm,
and like some insight into what like this character's thinking.
okay.
So it can be good, but sometimes it can just be a waste. So I think
Yeah.
can we compromise and say a C?
Yeah, I think C's fine. I think C works. Like because like what you said, like it can be used to kind of get inside the inner mind of the characters sometimes.
Yeah.
But I feel like I can't think of an example recently that I'm like, wow, you know.
Yeah.
So C.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's go C. Okay. Nerd gets the hottie.
Oh,
It doesn't. I don't think it bothers me much anymore, but it
yeah,
definitely did back in the day.
yeah.
Uh,
I think as long as it's like natural, then it's fine. But like I find a lot of times like when they do this, the nerd is kind of like a douche or like not a nice person. And then like the hottie is like kind of like, oh, I'm a bimbo or dumb, and I don't like that. But there certainly is kind of like the like Iron Man and Pepper kind of thing where it's like he's kind of a nerd, and
yeah.
she's not like I know everyone's Iron Man billionaire playboy. I'm like he's a nerd. He's like
Yeah.
You know?
He likes playing with toys. He likes
Yeah.
playing with toys and tinkering. So I'm
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
uh,
So I don't know. I'll give it like a
yeah.
B. I don't know. What do you think?
Um, it doesn't, like I said, it doesn't bother me much anymore.
Yeah.
It really bothers me in like Michael Bay films, like Shia LaBeouf
Oh gosh, yeah, you're
and
right.
Transformers.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah,
but that's not every movie. That's not every movie. So I will agree with you and say it's a B.
yeah.
I
Yeah,
don't love it when I see it, but it
yeah,
doesn't bother me much anymore.
yeah. I think we're like as times are changing, it's getting better. But like, yeah,
Hmm.
there definitely was a stench for sure.
Okay.
Woof,
Okay.
we
So
got a
the
lot left
next
here.
one. Yeah, let's try and power through this because I know it's really late for you. I'm sorry.
It's
I'm
okay.
sorry.
It's okay.
Uh, but shot, but acting as if nothing happened.
Well, John Wick does that,
Yeah,
and I love John Wick, so
I never
I'd be a
noticed.
hypocrite.
To be honest, I don't notice.
I don't either, really.
When,
Yeah.
yeah. So is this our first S?
You said S,
Yeah, S.
as in like the best.
Yeah. That we.
I don't know. I mean, because like if we don't notice it, it's not like something that we're like, oh, I love it.
Right. Right.
It's almost like,
So B.
yeah, it's like almost B, like we're indifferent. I think, because that's what we said about
Yeah.
cliffhangers, right?
Yeah. Exactly. Okay. Let's go B
Yeah,
on that one. I don't really notice it
yeah,
unless it's like completely obvious, but even then, it's a movie. It's
right,
like
yeah.
it's like that's the
That's the
whole
whole
point.
point. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Sidekick turns out to be the villain.
Oh God, I'm dreading when this happens in Spider-Man. Uh, um, I think that a lot of the things that I watch, it doesn't make much sense because like I said, like the foundation of a sidekick is, I think, friendship, partnership, trust, loyalty, and so for
Hmm.
them to turn, it's not. It's like I know like twists can be very exciting, but for me, it's kind of just like, how did we get here? More, I think sometimes,
Yeah.
but if they were wronged, like Syndrome and Incredibles, then it could be well done. So I'm sort of leaning towards a C. I think. I don't know. What do you feel?
um, I kind of like this
Okay.
because it's definitely I like twists. I like getting the rug pulled out from under me.
Mm-hmm.
Immediately thought of like Syndrome and shoot, what's the
Mr.
I can't
Incredible.
really think.
Yeah,
Yeah, of that. So
that was a
I
nice
know it
twist.
could
Yeah.
be I know it could get annoying, but I do kind of like this twist.
Yeah.
I think it's really great.
So
There's another twist um in another movie, but I don't want to reveal it because it's rather new.
yeah,
But
yeah. Maybe so. Maybe like an
yeah,
A or B.
I'm thinking B. I'm
Okay.
thinking B right
Okay.
here. I think it's a solid twist, but I
Yeah.
don't think it's the best. Uh, this is a weird one. The I don't know if I could say this on YouTube.
Jeez.
The S uncaring babysitter.
I mean, if I was like a '90s shock jock bro, I would be like S tier. But because I'm really not, I kind of just feel like still doing that in 2023 feels like, God, I don't even want to go. I don't want to get your channel flag, so I'm just gonna keep it at
Yeah,
D.
yeah. Let's just go D.
Yeah,
Let's just go D
it's like,
because it's bad.
yeah, yeah.
Uh,
I'm like grown men doing
Je-
this with young women. Yeah, no, yeah,
yeah. Let's just go D because that bad. Gender roles don't exist anymore.
yeah,
Anyone could do whatever they want.
yeah.
Uh, okay. The protagonist turns out to be the bad guy in movies.
I like it. It's a twist that I think we need a little bit more of. I think we need more
Hmm.
anti-heroes and to give them like make them the main character.
Yeah.
But like I mean like you think I was Wolf of Wall Street comes up all the time now. I'm a sales guy and Like it's just that I really loved that character. I really did. I thought it was fun. It was clever. Social Network. I really like that too. But I think my issue isn't necessarily with the trope. I like the trope. It's with the fan base that follows, because
Yes.
a lot of times they miss the point. You know, like Ken, for example. Like you have some men. Oh, Ken was awesome. I love Ken. I'm like, no, Ken was not awesome. Like
Right.
Ken became awesome, but Ken was not awesome. You know.
Or even something like Breaking Bad too,
Yes.
where it's like you care about like this character, but he's doing horrible
Yeah.
things, and
I
yeah,
would. I mean, me personally, I'd put it up like pretty high, like A or S. Like that's sort of my thing. But like I said, that fan base that it draws is just ugh.
yeah. Let's go A,
Okay.
just because of the fan base.
Yeah.
So we don't want,
It loses
yeah.
points.
Uh, okay, smartass, mean goth girl, whatever. What?
I think. Oh no, this is like yeah. This is like sort of like the alt sort of girl who kind of like is witty and like snappy. It's a huge trope. You see it with like Raven and Teen Titans, Rogue and X Men. Just trying to think of like another one. A lot of times, it's like
Mean Girls as well. You kind of see it a little bit there.
yeah, it's like yeah. You're right with Janice Ian. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I like it. But the reason I like it is probably different, or like not sure if it's like the purpose, but like I think like the girl who's like, or the woman who's pretty in pink and has to be like clean and like preppy and all that. It was always refreshing to me growing up to see like yeah, like girls can be whatever they want, and like there's a range of girls, and like the smartest person in the room can be a girl, and so I kind of
hmm
liked it growing up. But I don't know. How did you feel?
Um, it doesn't bother me. I think that it's nice kind of seeing different archetypes
Yeah,
for women, for female characters,
yeah,
other than just being like you said, like kind of like the blonde, like like just
yeah.
like, oh, look at me and stuff like that.
Right.
Uh, I would like kind of seeing like the typical kind of like stereotype for female characters with like this archetype of a
Yeah,
smart ass mean goth girl, like having them look like a typical like girl, but having them act like that. I
yeah,
I would like to see it there.
yeah.
So with that in mind, I would say B.
I was thinking
Like
the
it's
same. B. Yeah, I think this trope could use like a sort of like a freshen. Like I think like when you think of this character, you don't think of them being like sensitive or crying or like like opening up to people over time. But I think that's a very real thing that should have happened with these characters. So yeah.
right. Let's go B. Okay, I'll speed up here.
Oh yeah.
Walking away from an explosion.
Oh my god, I'm sure you love that.
Yeah. I love it. I love it. Can I say it's my first S?
Go ahead.
Can we say it's
You
the
can put it
first
up
S?
there. Put it up in an S. I know.
Yeah, yeah.
It is pretty awesome
I just
sometimes.
love I just love it just because it's just like it's just so dumb. It's so anime.
You'll
It's just
see. Yeah, I
so,
was gonna say you'll see Zoro have a couple. I think potentially.
oh my god, I can't wait.
It-
I'm gonna watch after we're done
I
with
know.
this.
I know. I really want to go
Okay,
back and rewatch like a maniac. It's like,
right. Okay. Okay. The geek that can hack into anything.
oh, I used to love Wade from Kim Possible.
Y-
Like,
yes.
yeah, Wade was awesome. In a Mission Impossible, I love when that guy from Hot Fuzz does it too. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, I mean, honestly, it needs to it needs to be cleaned up a little bit. So I'd say probably B for me, but like, yeah, I like it. I think. What about you?
I I would say B as well. And I will say that it's fun when you see it, but the thing that I hate about hacking sequences is when they show the computer screen and it's like nothing
Oh yeah,
like I've ever
yeah,
seen like on a
yeah.
computer.
Right. Yeah,
So
yeah.
I was I it would be A, but they need to like
Freshen it.
make like make like the computer screen look like actually what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
Not like, oh, let me hack into this, and they're just like, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
Just like,
Right. Yeah.
yeah, make it accurate,
Right.
computer accurate.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um.
All right. So
Okay, this is an easy one. Hot blonde character is dumb. That's D.
yeah, D. We don't even need to discuss. That's
We
just a
we
D.
we love women here.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
so
yes.
that
However, I will
Megan
say,
would have Megan. What?
I was gonna say, however, I will say a hot blonde character that is dumb can be awesome if they aren't just dumb. Like I think about Mean Girls, Karen. Like
Yeah,
she's dumb, but also she's not. She's a little bit Daisy to her. You know what I mean? From Daisy from
yeah, or even someone like Elle Woods.
yes,
Like Elle
exactly,
Woods too.
exactly. Yeah.
Should we say C?
Yeah, I think
Since
C.
since we
Yeah.
give this a yeah, let's
Yeah,
go C.
because it's again, it's a different type of archetype for some women, and I think I think we were quick to judge there.
Yeah, I think we're very quick to judge,
Yeah.
but we still love women here at the Real
Yes.
Lovers podcast. Oh yeah, and the Circle Club.
Yes. Falling.
Falling while being chased.
Oh, I'm not a big fan of that one personally. You like it?
It's like depends on what they're falling on, like what they tripped on.
I would say C.
If they tripped on nothing, then D.
Yeah, for
but
sure, yeah.
But if the
something
character
stopped
has
them-
like if the character has like a limp or something like that, and they fall while being chased, I would tolerate it because
Same,
it's
yeah.
realistic.
Yeah, C.
So C. Let's go C. Okay. The shy girl gets the guy. I don't.
Shy girl
I don't
gets
know.
the guy. I guess
Yeah.
go back to Mean Girl.
I don't
Mean
know
Girl
if this
has
is a
lot of-
trope.
Yeah, I don't think so either. I would say shy girl gets the guy. Maybe a D. It seems kind of like old school.
Yeah, very old school. Let's go D. The immortal protagonist.
That's S for me personally.
Yeah, it's S for me as well.
I like my protagonist to be juiced up and overpowered, but they have to also be emotionally overpowered too. Like it's like to the point where it's like Dom in Fast and Furious has such a strong. No, seriously though, he has such a strong belief in family that it's like it's a superpower. And
he is
beautiful.
he has a strong belief in family, but he breaks that strong belief
Yes.
so many times where it's just like, do you actually believe in family? Because you betrayed quite a few people here.
Yeah.
So I'm like,
Yeah.
but yeah, I totally agree. I like having a protagonist that could basically go through everything.
And you'll
It
in One Piece, you'll see that, like not just like Luffy, but like all the characters, like
mhm.
there's some characters that you're like, whoa, are they ever gonna lose? But like that's what makes it really cool is that at some point they will. It is
Right.
the name of the game. But yeah, I agree with you. It's just fun. Like there's certain projects that you watch where you're like I watch John Wick because I want to see him win. I want to see him overcome the
Yeah.
odds.
Yeah.
And I watch One Piece because I want to see Luffy and his crew succeed, but I want them to learn throughout that process, and I think that's something you'll see.
Okay. Next is
Wise
the wise character is an old hermit.
Huh?
Like I'm thinking like Bilbo. Bilbo Baggins. He's
Yeah.
just living in his house. Could
That I don't have too much of an opinion on that one. I don't think. What do you?
I don't have too much of opinion either. Should we say C?
Yeah, I was gonna say C.
Yeah, it's just weird.
I like that.
Of course he would be wise.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like it too because of course he's wise because he's staying away from people.
Right.
So,
yeah.
Yeah. Okay, this one's my favorite one.
Okay.
High school kids look 30.
Oh. God.
Tokyo Drift.
Yeah.
Fast and the Furious Tokyo Drift.
Yeah.
D.
Yeah,
D.
That's a heavy D for me, man.
Just cast people of age. That's all we ask. That's all we ask.
I don't. Yeah, it's weird. I think like I
Yeah.
get it because in order to play the part of a high schooler, you sort of have to be a little bit self-aware. And I think a lot of high schoolers aren't self-aware. So like to maybe have someone who's like a senior playing a freshman, or maybe a
Yeah.
freshman in college playing, I'm fine with that. But when it gets past like 22, I'm like, this is too old, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Like someone like Toby
Yeah.
from like even I know people like to say like, "Oh, Toby was perfect
No, he wasn't.
Spider-Man." I'm like, he looks 35.
Yeah.
I'm like,
I have sort of like a viral video, if you will, on Instagram that gets comments every single day that I talk about how I'm like, if Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield could play Spider-Man, then there's no problem for me that Shamika could play Spider-Man.
yeah, exactly.
Like because they all did it, and honestly, even Tom Holland. Like I know everyone's like, oh, he's babyface, but like Tom Holland does not look 14. Like we're like
Nope.
or 15. Like I don't know where we get that idea from. But anyways.
Yeah. It, just cast people of age.
Yeah.
That's all we ask. Unless there should be more.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean. Next is the scary basement.
It works every time, so it's hard for me to say that I don't like it because it creeps me out every time.
It creeps me out, but I would say it's more of, I wouldn't say it's an A or an S. I would
Yeah.
say B because I like a scary attic, to be honest. Let's switch things up.
I don't like either, man. I'm not a scary horror person, but like every time I see a scary basement and anything, I'm like, don't go down there, don't go down there. Like,
Yeah.
So I'd say
And
B.
they go down there every single time.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So B,
Yep.
would you say B?
Yeah.
Okay.
There's a really good use of this in How to Get Away with Murder as well. I don't know if you've ever seen that show. That's
The first couple seasons. Yeah.
Oh, it's really good. It's like that was like one of those shows I watched during the pandemic, and it kind of like goes up and down a lot. So
Right.
network
Okay.
television.
We're right. We're almost done here. Last row.
Okay.
Henchman that never speaks.
I don't like that.
No.
I always feel
I
like
don't either.
Henchman could be definitely more fleshed out. So I would say D personally.
Yeah, I would say D as well. They deserve lines too.
Yeah.
They deserve representation.
That's always special. Can't wait for you to see it.
Right.
Like there's a henchman that has a backstory that like you'll cry. I swear to God.
Oh God. You're hyping it up. Okay.
It'll deliver. I promise.
All right. Coming out of retirement to fight.
I mean,
just end it already.
My gut says D, but I'll be kind and say C because I think it's kind of interesting, but
it's just like it's like I always hated in movies when they were like, but just one more.
I got one more in me, dog.
Just one more mission.
Yeah.
One more mission. I got one more in me. I'm just like, no, you got more. You got more. It's like when
you ever see that meme with like the Gucci bag and it's like tearing, and it's it's like let it go, bro. Like that's how I feel.
Right, exactly. It's like when Vin Diesel says, "Oh, we got one more movie after this." No, we got two more movies. Just let it go. Let it go.
Let it go, man.
Yeah. So, did we agree D?
D, yeah.
Okay. Or you said you would be nice and say C.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, I liked it in Creed when in like Rocky and stuff, but let's see.
Yeah.
Okay.
Ends in romance. The movie ends in romance.
I am a bit more romantic, so I think I like that.
Mm-hmm.
I think I sort of lean towards I want to say A, honestly.
A or S?
Yeah, like because I think like it depends on the romance. Like it doesn't need to be like like man and man in love, woman and woman in love, or whatever. Like it's more so to me like it's a romantic ending to the story where it's like yes, like this is. I like my stories to end where it's like this is the world I would prefer to live in. If that makes sense.
Right. The characters have had to earn that romance.
Yes.
Like I hated at the end where it's like the man gets the girl
Mm-hmm.
and they kiss and I'm like, you didn't earn that kiss.
No, right?
You just
Yeah.
got it because the writers were horny or something like
Right.
that. It's
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
like it's
Yeah.
yeah.
It's like no, he's actually a terrible human being. He could have texted you back. You know, it'd be like, yeah.
Yeah. I will agree with you and say A though, just
Mm-hmm.
because if it's earned, I like seeing it.
Yeah.
This one's easy. All nerds have glasses.
That's a D.
That's a D. That's a D.
Yeah. It's like we said about Iron Man. Like he's a complete nerd, but does not have glasses. Spider-Man too.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, nerds come in all shapes and sizes.
Yeah.
So yeah. Fat person is funny. This is easy. D.
Fat person is funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a D.
Yeah. Fat people can like just kind of like with all nerds have glasses. Nerds come in all
Yeah.
shapes and sizes.
Yeah.
Fat people come in all. That sounds bad.
Fat people.
I'm really tired.
It's okay.
But yeah, that's a D though
Yeah.
because um, fat people can do other things too.
Sure.
Like yeah,
I agree.
protagonist turns out to be villain's child.
It's not fair because Darth Vader is like the ultimate one.
Yeah.
And I think C because I kind of feel like what I notice is a lot of time it's usually like the mom is the evil one, and I think I kind of like when the dad is evil because the mom always sort of gets villainized a lot of the time in these things, and and I think the father's kind of I'm gonna say C.
I will say C, but I will just add that I immediately thought of the Man of Steel, the whole mother, that line.
God,
and
that kicked me out
such
of the whole DCU. Honestly, like I remember
did
when
for me
it came
too.
out. I think I was in high school or college, and I was just kind of like, these are terrible.
Yeah, DCU shape up. Well, James Gunn hopefully will save them, but the protagonist is actually adopted.
I haven't seen that too often. That might be an interesting one to explore. But how do you feel?
I feel really strongly about it because I'm adopted myself.
Right. Yeah.
So I will go A because I like seeing anytime.
Yeah, I was gonna actually say A or S personally because I think I don't think we have enough adoption stories personally.
Yeah, let's go S
Yeah.
because adoption representation.
Lion is one of my favorite movies
of
all
it.
time. So
yeah, I got it right here. Right here.
Nice, love that.
Yeah.
Yes. And also timely because it turns out that the Blind Side, Michael Orr, is not adopted. He was used as cattle. So interesting.
Oh yeah, that's a whole nother podcast. We'll do that some
yeah.
other time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. I have a lot of British people that listen to this podcast. So choose your words carefully for this next one.
Yeah. I got
bad guy is British.
Bad guy is British doesn't make much sense to me personally. So I mean, for me personally, I see it as a D. I've never quite understood why that is the case. It feels very yeehaw USA, and if anyone knows me, they know that's not how I roll. So
yeah, it's a very Western like mindset of just like
I actually I usually think of the British guy as like the intelligence or like the what would you call it, like the artificial intelligence or sort of like the computer.
Yeah.
Or something,
like Q, kind of like Q from James Bond.
Yes.
Yeah, I know it's a British like franchise, but still. And then the last three here.
Okay.
Super wise child.
What do you think?
Like children. I think A, to be honest. Like children are smarter than we think.
Definitely.
Like
I had this really weird revelation the other day. I was in the shower. I was kind of like, children designed the universe if you think about it, because before there was adults, we only had children. So
right.
Children are powerful, as you just said. So yeah.
yeah, I feel like we don't give enough credit to children just because like they don't they haven't experienced stuff like we have,
Yeah.
but they have a lot of things. There's a really interesting TikTok channel about I forget what it's called, but it's this guy that just interviews children like all day and
Oh
asks them
yeah.
questions.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It's and they're like super smart, like smarter than me, to be
Yeah. Yeah.
honest, and just
Yeah.
like they understand the world a lot more than I do.
Are you smarter than the
And
fifth grader? One of the bigger shows that in the early 2000s.
right.
But yeah, I mean it's I always love to see in television, especially animation,
Hmm.
when like someone has like a younger sister who's like kind of pops in and says like the funny thing, like or is super wise, or like the parents don't expect them to say something. I think Maud Apatow does this with her character in like was it This Is 40 or something like that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think so.
she's sort of like a wise young kid, has like these like quippy lines and stuff, and I always think it's funny.
Yeah. I think it's needed in movies. So Super Wise Child, we're going with A.
Okay.
Okay. Okay.
Oh gosh.
uh okay. Dying person says wise phrase. Like they're on their
I
dying
know.
breath and
Very
they're
quick.
like
I gotta say C for cliche or D for dumb.
I will say C for cliche because I
Mm,
do kind of like it
same.
like when they're dying and they just like they would have been dead like 2 minutes ago in real life, but
I
they're
love you.
speaking like in
3000.
soliloquy. Like,
Yes.
yeah, it's it's fun. I just think it's fun
It is
to be
fun.
honest.
It is. And I think too, like if you're on your dying breath, you're gonna like the last thing you say is probably gonna be like either really just idiotic or like profound. So
Right. And then the last one. Sorry, Tyrone, for making this go super long,
that's
but
okay. That's okay. We're hitting the
car
11
explode.
10 mark 11:10 mark here.
Right. Car explodes when shot at. Do you like this trope cliche?
I'm gonna.
You already know my thoughts on
I
this,
know.
so.
I know. I know. I'm gonna say it is a B for me. However, I will hear you out in your argument in case for an S.
um, it's dumb because depending on where they shoot at on the car, I'm always just like, whenever I'm watching a movie when that happens, I'm just like, they shot at the
Right?
tires,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I'm
Yeah.
like, how did they explode? Um,
But
but I
it's
understand
awesome. It really is. Like
it's. I understand it's done to make it look cool.
yeah,
To be
yeah.
honest,
I think
so
if you have an action movie where the car doesn't explode, did you have an action movie at all?
it, probably not. You just had an A24 film, so
Like I just think I'm like cars don't even really explode that often like in real life. It's so ridiculous, but I love it.
yeah, I love it. I don't want to say S, but I will bump your B to an A if
Okay.
that's cool.
That works for me.
Okay. Okay.
Woo, we made it.
We made it. Movie tropes. This is what it looks like. Comment down below what is your favorite trope. We just hit the 2 hour mark. I am sorry, Tyrone,
That
for
is
holding
so
you this
okay.
long. I could talk to you for hours though, to be honest. You're such a great
Thank you.
you're
Appreciate
such
that.
a great friend, man.
I
I love you,
appreciate.
man.
I love you too, bro. I no. I always have a great time. Like I know I told you we'd do this for an hour, but I was like, it's gonna go for 2 or 3, and I'll be fine with it. It's like honestly, I needed this like to kind of relax the day, end the day after having a hectic day.
Yeah.
It's just so fun to hear your One Piece experience, why you fell in love with movies, and like the way you talk about movies was just what it's just such. It's you talk with such like a joy that I think a lot of other YouTubers just don't have that I really admire. So yeah, I wanted to say that.
I I admire that about you as well. Like discovering like your channel, like on YouTube or even on TikTok. It's just like I like the way you just talk about like movies and TV. Just like how they are and stuff like
Yeah,
that, and you
yeah,
pay respects to the people that worked on them.
yeah. Likewise, likewise. And yeah,
Yeah,
and I think like whenever you talk about movies or television or you're entertaining, it always feels like like you said, there's like a respect there, and I can
Mm-hmm.
tell that like it's honestly kind of like Luffy in the sense of like it's just like you have this mindset of like life is too short, so just enjoy it, which I think is infectious, and I think more people need that seriously.
Well, I appreciate that, but Tyrone, we are approaching the end.
Okay.
This tonight, this is your time. Tell the people, tell the people listening or watching where they could find you online.
So you can find me, the Circle Club, pretty much anywhere: TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, Threads, you name it, we're everywhere. And yeah, but like mostly YouTube is the primary, but I think Instagram has been sort of where we are, and we have very seasonal, and so because of that, if there's a show that's hot, we'll cover it. If we don't feel like it's appropriate, we won't do it. We may do some sketches as well, and like random things like that. We like to have fun. So if you're gonna
Mm-hmm.
subscribe, that's what you're gonna get. You're gonna get fun. You're gonna get movies, TV, pop culture, and yeah, yeah. Thanks for having me on the Reels Lovers podcast, and I just can't wait to come back. I think it'll be fun.
Yeah, I can't wait to come back and talk more One Piece with you for sure. And
Absolutely.
this is I can't wait to like dive more into like One Piece and just discover it along with you.
Yeah.
And yeah, people could follow me on Instagram, X, or are you calling it X, Twitter.
Yeah.
You said you could follow me pretty much everywhere with the social media handle at Marley Loves Film. Follow me everywhere, and let's talk film. Let's talk film together. You can listen to this podcast anywhere you listen to podcasts: Spotify, iTunes, Stitcher, wherever you listen to podcasts. We're at. Give us a rate and review. We also have a Patreon too. So if you like what we're doing here at the Real Lovers Podcast, feel free to donate $1 and join our community Discord on Patreon. And yeah, and for Tyrone from the Circle Club and me for the Real Lovers Podcast, just keep watching movies and like Tyrone always says, just be you.
Just be you.
All right,
Exactly.
we'll see you later.